Hello everybody and welcome to the Learn Dota 2 League Season 14, Week 5. Today we got Crusader Knights, we got Rankings of a Scrub, Game 2. It's basically the same notes as from the first draft. Neither of these bands made sense. Except now neither of these teams make sense. I think these are both kind of bad drafts. You can really tell exactly how seriously Crusader Knights has taken this match, because they got a pause one Dawnbreaker going on. On the other side of the coin, the rankings of Scrub lineup is just kind of redundant in the worst way. Magnus, Tidehunter, and Silencer, as a support at the very least, are all kind of heroes based around the core concept of denying an enemy the ability to fight. Wraith King is a good hero if you just want to tank through things, and then you got the Lone Druid who's going to be going mid this game, for some reason. And I mean, I don't know. It's like, it's going to be so hard. Like, Rankings of a Scrub is going to be able to juggle people on Crusader Knights for like 5.5 years. They're going to be able to disengage from anything. They're going to be able to make absolute sure that every go on any member of their lineup is as miserable as possible. And unless Lone Druid gets like uber super fed, I mean, unless Lone Druid is like 8 or 9k minimum above the next highest core in the entire lobby and he's in first place, it feels like they're going to be doing a lot of surviving of fights and going to be doing absolutely no damage in fights. And it's going to be looking like a tough game. I don't like the Magnus and Tidehunter combo. I don't, especially as a lane. I don't like the Magnus and Tidehunter combo. I don't like the Wraith King in this game. And just to be frank, I don't like the Silencer either. I feel like in this particular game, Jakiro is gone, but a more damage-oriented support at the very least, a Lion, for example, probably does you pretty well here. Oh, also, literally nothing is going to be able to do anything about the sun, and that doesn't help either. Rex is going to loudly announce that it's time for a little butchery.
Look out for fallen rocks!
So I don't know. I don't think the fact that Crusader Knights is a Pozlin Dawnbreaker matters at all. I feel like this is just such an awful game for Rankings of the Scrub. Once again, just based on this draft, that it's going to be hard for ROAS to do much of anything this game. I think outside of mid, the lanes go good. Like, you know, Tidehunter and Magnus aren't going to be able to get any kills at Bob, but they're going to be able to stand up to virtually any damage that comes out. The safe lane should be okay. I'm not really, if I'm Wraith King, I'm not really that scared of the guys who are going to be up here, but... Well, no, actually, I think I take that back. I think I might actually be here. First blood on the Silencer. Pudge does not get a fat stack for that.
Maybe it's a bait.
At least he doesn't, yeah, maybe it'll show up when he levels his passive, but I think it shows you. 2 for 2 on the runes somehow, though, still. Feels like Pudge is going to have a very hard time getting last hits under the Fire Spirits or being close to the lane just due to the oppression that Hook gives. And Silencer is such a non-defensive support. It's like, you know, it's kind of like a Quap Circles throwback. It just reminds me of those Quap Circles lanes where you had the Wraith King and like an all-offense type support like this. And it feels like what you're going to see every time you see those two things come out at once. What you tend to see is a Wraith King sitting at 2% health and no last hits, while Silencer is just draining the entire mana bar, just trying to get a kill.
Radiant's courier has been killed.
Or at least Silencer is able to knock out the Phoenix Courier here. It's gonna knock out the supply lines for another minute. It's gonna make the Ward Wars a lot harder for Dusty to do anything in, and Paytus is already a pretty formidable opponent when it comes to those Ward Wars. That's not too great for him.
You almost had that.
There's one bit of good news. I think Tiny isn't great into any of these cores. But I don't think any of these cores are great into Tiny either. That's the bad news. Like, I feel like what's going to end up happening in a lot of these fights is Tiny's going to come in, do all this stuff, do a surprisingly low amount of damage, and then an equally low amount of damage comes back.
Dire's courier has been killed.
Speed? Maybe it's a bait.
Wizard, being absolutely torn to pieces by this safe lane's damage output so far, wisely decides not to invest in a point of his Kraken shell for some reason. Really do not get that one. He's going to be making this lane just a lot more difficult than it has to be for himself.
So you do not.
Especially if he tries to use Gush to get last hits. I'm gonna give a pro tip to all the kids at home, okay? If you're gonna Gush to get a last hit, you better damn well make sure it actually lands. It's 100 mana on 300 base. If you're behind on your Tidehunter news, you might be surprised to hear this. I'm not actually sure if this is even the case when this game happened. Okay, Wraith King just randomly, casually going to die. Pudge at the very least is going to go down himself, and taking an int loss on Pudge is kind of crappy. Let's see Tide's stats to see. Yeah, so for the modern Tidehunter, do be aware when you're laning and you're skilling things up that Gush is actually now better level over level scaling as far as mana costs than the Anchor Smash does. So if you wanna keep your mana costs low and your output high, skill that Gush, would you? I'm really not sure what Katsu is doing there. I just feel like it just turned that from an okay little encounter to a pretty bad one. Wizard looking dead, yep.
With the fishes.
Katsu's just a little too fast for Dawnbreaker to drop the ball on top of his head, but he's in no position to do anything right now. Silencer stacking camps, I think, over here? Yeah, just trying to stack up.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
It's a good move as far as like an angry last stand coming out of the... Why didn't he Gush? Maybe he was on cooldown. We're gonna look at that actually. Yeah, just on CD. Okay. Yep, kind of awkwardly long cooldowns on those Tidehunter skills, so that exact situation is gonna happen to you sometimes, but yeah, kind of a good last stand move from Magnus there, but again, you know, even leveling up the Anchor Smash, you're going to find it very, very hard to do appreciable amounts of damage as Tidehunter in a lane like this. Especially if you're lacking the... Ooh, Kraken Shell is going to let you stay competitive, though. Got a little Joy-Con drift on my mouse there.
Radiant's courier has been killed.
Awkward situation there for the Dawnbreaker. I think maybe the way to go there is probably just drop Q and just hope you hit something on the way out. A bit unfortunate, but I don't think it ultimately matters that much, especially if Ramanolo just dies at top to match.
Is it a feed? Maybe it's a bait.
Pudge 3 fat stacks at the moment. So he did lose a fat stack on one of these kills/assists. But it's 5 minutes, Pudge has 3 fat stacks, Wraith King has 2 deaths, and that really can't happen to you as Wraith King. Not if you want to win, anyway. Feels like at this point it's almost the exact phenomenon that I described earlier. It feels like it's just so hard to keep Wraith King alive in this lane, and it's just so hard for him to get any last hits at all that he's not only been dying a lot to the top last hits in the server man Pudge, but not getting anything for it in response either. Guess he's gonna move out to mid here, take just a glance at this, not doing anything. Once again, the mid just kind of ends up stalemating. The only lane where there isn't a pretty significant Crusader Knights advantage at this point, though. Again, it's a little hard to say it means much when Well, especially when you got Phoenix here to just make this annoying for the lone druid, but it's hard to say that means much of anything. Oh, okay, that's good. See exactly. Okay, Pudge just gets really greedy here. Just tries to go deep under tower without his boss 4, which you just can't do on this hero. Loses another 2-int. Again, that really kind of sucks for him.
Maybe it's a bait.
What's that mean?
4-int stolen on the silencer here. Pudge is down to 303 mana. Before that happened to him, let's see how much he has when he comes back up. Very awkward interaction there. They're really not positive why London has decided. Okay, that's actually as much in as he has. Not positive why London is down here, to be honest with you. I feel like these guys are just sufficiently unthreatening. I don't know if I would just casually gank this lane unless I thought I was going to get tower, which he clearly doesn't if he's just going to right-click back to mid. Maybe this is an attempt to get Dusty to 6 quite quickly, which is kind of good in this game. I mean, they don't really have anything for awkward. They don't really have anything for the Sun, as mentioned earlier. We're finding it quite hard to actually get anything done to the lone druid here, which is good for PPM at the very least. Again, you know, like I mentioned earlier, if there's any, Magnus just going deep here? Why? Okay, he's just a casualty of the Ward Wars. If there is any hope for rankings to scrub this game, it's just basically predicated on Lone Druid being able to 1v5, which, I mean, I think it's hard for him to be able to do that, maybe? But again, he has to get so very far ahead that it's like, I don't know. I just don't like this draft. Not one bit.
Regeneration.
Maybe when you're older. Dawnbreaker swinging a miss on the Tidehunter here, who is a lower level than Dawnbreaker despite his pause 4 having taken quite long stays away from the waves here. Silencer going to be just trying to clean up some of the wards in the triangle here. It's not going to go well for him.
Silence is broken.
4 fat stacks on the fat man, who is now just going to try and take over these stacks that Paige has worked so hard to create. Which is a little unfortunate. They're going to take the bird here as compens.
Very well. I accept your surrender.
I think if we're communicating at all on rankings of Scrub, I think the thing to do is just have London put so much pressure on the mid T1 that the Lone Druid just is forced to abandon triangle, just have Pudge go back in and eat the stacks. It's quite a lot of money that's just sitting on the ground that I think rankings has pretty good ability, not rankings, Crusader Knights have a pretty good ability to secure, just aren't going to do that. Ogre Magi are just going to get cut down here, just no friend for him in the world in this lane. Lone Druid going to get tossed around a little bit here, but I mean, just not to any real effect. He's just a little too tanky for that to scare him.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Pudge are going to whack the top T1 a little bit here. Stack here in Dire Jungle still not actually taken down.
Radiant structures.
Ramanolo has had to level up his ult here. Pudge in a kind of bad situation. Never mind, it's getting a lot better all of a sudden.
Have my flesh.
For how short your lives are, you've done quite well.
Response from the Dawnbreaker, just chasing the Tidehunter. Just does not want him to go anywhere without her approval. Gets straight up knocked down. Mid was stalemating for a while, but you can see here in the sort of the end of the lane phase, it's starting to get kind of bad for Tiny actually. He's quite behind on money, which I imagine has got a little bit to do with his inability to get any damage done to PPM here. Who unfortunately, well, didn't actually fully use it. I was about to say totally wasted his ult in an ultimately fruitless attempt. Did not actually go that way. 6 fat stacks for the fat man. Who has got the Slammin' Strawberry for his Zags now.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Phoenix is being... Okay, there we go. So I was gonna say, being a little undercautious here of what Silencer can do to you right now, but Silencer's pretty low leveled, so not really that big of a deal.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
I imagine I'm gonna get rooted under the tower here. Ultimately run over. Four people came here to kill one Ogre Magi, which really didn't mean much of anything. They are at least going to get the tower for this for pretty much free. I don't know why anybody is being cautious here at CK on CK at mid right now. This should definitely just be everybody just right-click the mid T1 and kill it. Really nothing scary at all there. Wraith King has finally cleared out this stack here.
Dire's top tower is under attack. Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Lift coming out here. It's taken so long for them to do anything at the mid T1. Everyone's kind of come in looking for them, but unfortunately these guys are so far behind. It really doesn't matter who shows up to do anything about this. They just kind of die anyway.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Got my ear. Double.
Pages gets the entire team to follow her all the way to the bot T1. Does actually get it done though.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
It's Tidehunter versus Pudge in the fight of the century. There's gonna be a smoke out here. Who's going to ult with that? And a Magnus ult just immediately gets blocked off basically by the Phoenix ult.
Dire's middle tower has fallen.
Again, it really just doesn't feel like there's any significant ability for this lineup to stop the sun.
Attack.
At least not until Lone Druid gets really, really big, but if things like this happen, that's not going to be anytime soon. It is actually very, very tanky here. Might actually still get away with this. 30. Okay, Pudge has to go deep to get the hook out.
Is it a feed?
What's that mean?
Maybe it's a bait.
What's that mean?
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Pudge, with a very in-universe impressive hook, catches Tidehunter in mid-air for the kill. Now sitting on 11 fat stacks, 1 component shy of Ags. I think if they take the T2 here, well, they're not going to. They're kind of walking away from it. But, I mean, all he really needs is the bounty rune and maybe 2 waves to get that out at this point.
The coin of the realm.
Tiny being as low net worth as he is isn't a great sign for the Crusader Knights, but Lone Druid being as low as he is a way worse sign for the rankings of a scrub. Like, you cannot be this far behind as a Lone Druid in a game like this. Especially with the consideration that you're probably going to need to defend stuff, and if you just kind of die every time you come out, that ain't great. Tiny was not really watching where his team was there, I don't think. He could have easily just thrown the Magnus into his own friends, but just didn't choose to do that. Maybe he didn't get enough sleep again, who knows.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Still, despite the tenuous nature of that particular go, Magnus goes down all the same, so it all works out in the end. Just not as well as you would have hoped, but hey, you know, can't be 100% efficient 100% of the time. Interesting decision here by Wraith King to not go for the Midas in this game.
Bounty.
I feel like if you see the way the last game goes, you know for a fact these guys are going to try and take their sweet time to actually get the job done. I mean, that siege on their high ground in the last game was so long, I feel like it was about half of the runtime of the entire game. It feels like a Midas here. It's a pretty risk-free investment for the Wraith King. I'm going to try and go on the Ogre here. But again, this sun is just so miserable for them. They just can't do anything about it. Everyone has to get the hell back. Wizard pops ult to try and save the Wraith King, and not only doesn't do that, he is also dead himself. Though, Druid's getting some work done over here. Did just get a pretty good double kill for himself. Dawnbreaker's still not any part of this.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack. Dire's bottom
Takes
tower
out the bot
has
T1
fallen.
there. Going for a very quick Radiance here.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
So, despite the fact that that looked like that was really good, and Wraith King did go down, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been, you did just shove 9,000 gold straight into Lone Druid's pockets and shoot him from the bottom of the core list to top for his team. He's still not near where Dawnbreaker or the Fat Man are, but you know, every second you spend getting closer to that point, it's not really great for them. I think I would classify this, even if the clock is really long. Like, if this game goes like an hour, there is absolutely no way Rankings of a Scrub doesn't win it. Like, no way in hell that Crusader Knights could really effectively win it. So CK are definitely on a bit more of a time limit here than they were in the last game. But, I mean, they can extend that quite easily just from making themselves nuisances, stopping these guys from farming, so... H's, I believe, just misclicked there.
Nothing near the end of this.
14 fat stacks for Pudge. Sir has found himself a couple of more stolen ant charges since the last time he looked. He's sitting on 12 stolen ant, which ain't great. It is making life a little hard for some of these low mana guys on Crusader Knights. You know, every single time they die, things get a little crappier for them. These are guys that never really fully get over their mana issues, so it's going to be a kind of, you know, a consistent issue with them through the game, and it's just another thing where it's like, if Rankings of Scrub pull this out for a million billion years, they can win it.
Dire's top
They just
tower
have
is
to,
under
you know,
attack.
at least a million billion years where they're in close enough contention that they're not having to fight for every inch of ground, where they're not having to ignore farm to survive. I mean, that's as bad as just not doing anything at all, basically. But, you know, if they can get some valued time in this game, right, some actual valuable, some objectives done, some farming done, they can definitely still win this game. But, I mean, it's such a long shot for them to be able to do this. And I feel like the damage gap is still going to be kind of bad. I feel like late in the game, the damage gap between these two teams is still almost as bad as it is right now. Radiance comes out on the Dawnbreaker here. Honestly, at this point, there's probably a couple of people on the enemy lineup where if Dawnbreaker just casually ults on top of their head, they just die. Dawnbreaker, for some reason, is going to try and go on the Silencer there. Not that it matters. Lone Druid is just going to very casually die. Tidehunter almost assuredly going to follow. Wraith King, the only survivor, and that's not much of a consolation prize when you know for a fact, he ain't got that much to do in this game. Just not the best pick in the world for these guys, unfortunately.
Dire's top tower is under attack. Dire's middle tower is under attack. Dire's structures are fortified.
Glyph out here to protect both of the mid and top
Dire's
T2
middle tower
on
is under
Dire's
attack.
side. 15k
Dire's
net worth
middle
advantage
tower
for the
has
Crusader
fallen.
Knights. Also a over 3-to-1 kill ratio favoring them.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
At this point, you know, that hour that I was talking about has kind of started to look a little closer to 90 minutes maybe.
Bounty. Dire's top tower is under attack.
And even then, you still got questions like, how do you kill Pudge when he's got a million fat stacks? And the only answer I can really think of is, you don't! Not with these guys. Certainly not with these guys. It's funny, we have kind of gone to the opposite extreme here. Rather than having a bunch of squishy guys, just a bunch of glass cannons on this core lineup, they've got a bunch of tanky dudes that don't do any damage at all. They've got the exact opposite problem. Maybe a better balance here helps things out a bit. Like, Ramanolo had a lot of his Pos 1 lineup banned, but I mean, anybody can play like Weaver, right? You know.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Maybe like an Ursa, that would be pretty cool in this game. Something Pudge kinda hates, something Tiny kinda hates. Can deal with the sun.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Tanky enough to not care about this crap and outscales the hell out of Dawnbreaker, right? You know. I'm just spitballing here. Ogre Magi has a higher net worth than any of the cores on the enemy team, or in fact his own Tiny for some insane reason.
Dire's
We are not really that far from seeing just a lateral progression of money here. We are not really far removed from just a straight line of 5 Radiant heroes above 5 Dire heroes. I don't know, cutting ways in the background here. Irony is kind of rich. He's actually looking a little dead. That's a very good Avalanche. Very good Ravage as well. Very good RP. But, you know, as aforementioned, you know, it's just so hard for anybody to do any damage. And the sun just puts this fight to bed, basically.
Is it a feed? Maybe it's a bait.
I think if I'm Peter, I just call it. I don't know.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Another tragic kill, or another tragic death on the part of the lone druid. Tiny now having surpassed all the cores on the enemy team.
Structures are fortified.
I don't know. I mean, it's not like they know what Tiny's net worth is or anything, but I mean, geez, this is really looking impossible for rankings. Their levels are so low, they're able to just glyph out because they are laterally lower level. Top level on rankings is the lowest level on Crusader Knights. So they're actually able to just respawn in time for them not to be able to do anything here. They're gonna scan out the Roche pit, but I mean, rankings is absolutely nuts that they think they're gonna do anything about this. The only thing they get out of this is information. Pudge finishes the Kaya here.
Your shaman has fallen to the ring.
Takes the Aegis.
To another die.
He's actually mortal enough that that's not the worst idea I've ever seen. You know, it's not like he's died in a very long time, but on the other hand, he has gotten very close on a few recent occasions, and being able to just say hell with it and go with another health bar is not going to be the worst thing ever experienced by Pudge. 19 fat stacks and a tip to H's.
Dire's middle tower is under attack. Dire's middle
First
tower
T3
has
going
fallen.
down.
Dire's middle barracks are under attack.
Gunbreaker is showing up on the team here. Got jumped at bot. Oh, that's kind of sad.
Are fortified.
Magnus RPs and immediately dies. So, Tiny's actually also going to go down here. Magnus going to try and go for a round 2 here. Really just need to see the sun. It's going to seemingly possible. There we go. Global Silence comes out just too late.
Dire's middle barracks are under attack.
Manolo, for some insane reason, blinks in front of the sun, but it doesn't actually matter.
Dire's middle barracks.
Crusader Knights overextend themselves quite a heavy degree, especially with the consideration that Kai is actually out, and they take 4 for nothing. Well, they don't take 4 for nothing. They take 4 for 2 buybacks, but you know. At the very least, it's taking Lone Druid up a position on the net worth chart. Wraith King, decently likely to go up as well. And they're getting a little farther away from that nightmare scenario of even the lowest Crusader Knight having a higher net worth than the
Radiant's middle tower
highest regular scrub member. So that's good. Like Lone Druid's single Iron Branch. Titan Sliver coming out for them. I actually can be pretty good.
Regeneration.
Watermelon going to get just completely hammered over here. The fact that a T1 tower is still right in the sideline of this is really bad, actually. A lot of reinforcement come in. A lot of members of rankings go
Is it
down.
a feed? Maybe it's a bait.
Magnus is just a little too fast for Tiny to actually kill, but that's okay. He's not really of any value when it comes to defending high ground or racks or anything. Tiny looking for Ags. You're going to get the Ags before the shard in US Danny style.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
But 24 fat stacks. Actually, it's fairly comparable damage to Tiny at this point, considering the difference in attack speed.
Dire's top barracks are under attack.
Lane 2 of Rax going down.
Dire's top barracks has fallen.
Bliss has come to put an end to I've come to put an end of hope, or to hope.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
But hey, at least the Witch Doctor statue is here. So you get that. Magi's found himself a Hex.
Is under attack.
New man's smoke here. Fudge blinks into the middle of a whole bunch of people. Instantly eats the silencer. Druid getting pretty eaten by the Phoenix down here. Yep, just goes right down. Ramanolo's 9-second BKB gave him nothing but a death. Peter calls the G's. We're going home again. 2 30-minute games, how nice. Nice departure from the 70-minute classics that we tend to have here in the LE2L. I mean, this is just, again, I feel like the play was better on Crusader Knights and worse on rankings this time, but I don't know how you couldn't. I mean, they just lost all their lanes, they just got completely stomped, And even if that didn't happen, it's hard to see any path to victory for them here. Their team is very redundant in the worst way. They don't really add to each other's strengths in the slightest. They just, I don't know, they just have the same strengths. It's just the same thing. Why would you do the Tidehunter Magnus combo? That's really the most baffling thing about this to me. I assume the Magnus was just picked up to deny it to London, but I mean, it didn't do anything. Silencer didn't do anything. The Tidehunter just didn't do anything. Just all three of them just fed. When your 3 and under club is, you know, a collective 5 and 33, that is not a good sign. That's probably... I mean, we know fairly well that these are good players. That's just the failure of the draft. So, with that being said, if you're somebody you know wants to learn Dota 2, casual, more competitive level, ld2l.gg. See you next time.